The tragic death of young Dolph had a domino effect.
Man once named as a person of interest in young Dolph's murder has now also been killed.
With one thing leading to the next, and the violence snowballing onto something else.
2 people have been arrested in a deadly Castalia Heights shooting.
So it's likely that with all of his suspects all over the news, this is why young Dolph's death suspects are all dead. War in Memphis. The death of young Dolph in November 2021 caused chaos in the city of Memphis. He was one of, if not the city's most beloved rappers, and he was killed before he was set to deliver Thanksgiving turkeys to the less fortunate. His killing fueled anger among many people in Memphis, causing it to be a dangerous place to be. Police were basically telling people to stay indoors.
Tonight, we strongly encourage everyone to stay home if you do not have to be out.
But it wasn't simply chaos that ensued, but a war. According to the YouTube channel Cut to the Chase TV, many people were going into exile.
As soon as young Dolph lost his life, who left Memphis? Key Glock. He put all his yellow cars on a ramp and got the hell on. When Big Nooski lost his life, what did Moneybagg Yo do? Got the hell out of Memphis. He's like, man, this is too much. I don't want to get caught in the crossfire because now I know it's war. It's gonna be casualties on both sides, and I'm not trying to be in the mix of it.
And young Dolph's death was one of its instigators. When news broke out that Dolph was killed, it was unclear who exactly was involved, but the police soon found people connected to the death.
That officers need help locating 26-year-old Devin Burns and 26-year-old Joshua Taylor. With the addition of these 2 men, there are now 5 people total either behind bars, on the run, or wanted for questioning in the case that has garnered national attention.
There was a slight distinction made between all of the men involved. Some were charged directly with the killing, some were seen as accessories to the killing, whereas others were simply listed as a person of interest.
These 5 men are either in custody or wanted for questioning. Justin Johnson and Cornelius Smith are both behind bars, both charged with murder in the case. Last week, an arrest warrant was issued for Shondell Barnett for being an accessory after the fact.
And the list got longer.
Sunday, 2 more men were added to the names of those police want to speak with. They are Joshua Taylor and Devin Burns.
But it didn't stop there. Added to this list was someone who they believe was the mastermind behind the killing.
Hernandez Govan. He is charged with first-degree murder, criminal attempted first-degree murder, and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder.
And these people were all connected. Once they found one person, this led to another, and there was almost a domino effect of culprits.
The police didn't start getting leads, they didn't start developing suspects, they didn't start developing motives until they started locking people up. The moment Cornelius Smith got locked up, that's when everything went downhill. That's when they got Straight Drop as a suspect. Then they locked Straight Drop up. That's when they got Shondell Barnett.
These names were blasted all over the news. And while I said Govan was the mastermind, this was what news reports said at the time. Since then, something strange has happened. Govan has been given a bond and is allowed to stay on house arrest. And this is with the consent of young Dolph's family. Meanwhile, Justin Johnson and Cornelius Smith have to stay in jail. Why would someone alleged to have committed first-degree murder be allowed outside prison? This has led people to the conclusion that Govan may not have been as central to young Dolph's death as initially stated. When people sought revenge for young Dolph's death, the first person they went for was not Govan, but somebody else.
Yeah, we start with that breaking news tonight. We've been told by Memphis police that a high-profile gang member was killed in a shooting in Orange Mound this afternoon. This is according to family members who tell us Joshua Taylor was named a person of interest in the young Dolph murder case back in February of 2022.
The details of the scene were pretty gruesome.
Officers say the shooting happened at Spotswood Avenue near Bunton Street. Police received a call about a body found around 1 p.m. this afternoon. A short time later, Police Chief C.J. Davis made the scene. Neighbors telling us they think the victim was actually shot last night. Police are telling us the investigation is still ongoing. We'll keep you posted.
Of course, this could have been a coincidence, but even news outlets made a clear connection between the murder of young Dolph and Joshua Taylor.
In November 2021, Dolph was killed outside a South Memphis cookie store. 3 months later, MPD called Taylor and another man persons of interest. Taylor was reportedly questioned but never charged. Those close to the case tell us Taylor is part of a group, the same group linked to the suspects charged in connection with Dolph's murder.
And it left locals with the sense that this wasn't the end, and more was yet to come.
Taylor's death has left the community on edge, as many fear the violence isn't over, that retaliation will only continue.
YouTubers were predicting war. All of the people linked to young Dolph's death just so happened to be members of a Memphis gang called Trula Mafia. This is something we will dig much deeper into later, but just keep in mind that Dolph's killing did not come from individual shooters, but from a sophisticated organization. According to King Ak 47,
I told y'all just on the live stream, Niggas about to start dying and going to jail real soon. Ain't nobody want to believe me, bro. All this is tied to Dolph. All this, bro. All this is trickle-down effects.
The crucial piece of information was that Justin Taylor was not simply a gang member, but the leader.
Teezy ain't just no gang member. Teezy was the head of Trula Mafia.
With a major hit taken out on young Dolph, the buck stopped at the gang's leader.
That means if anybody that's in Trula got anything to do with young Dolph's death, Justin Johnson. Teezy, at the end of the day, gives the okay.
At first, people were wondering why it was Teezy that was attacked and not the actual people who pulled the trigger. The simple argument was that the shooters were simply following orders.
So at the end of the day, getting Teezy out the way is worth more than even getting the actual killer out the way. Because if it weren't for you, who is this?
And another suspicious death that occurred happened to a rapper member named Big Newski. He is believed to have been a friend of Justin Johnson, and as I'll get into later, has some other interesting connections.
Big Newski is the same that was all in pictures with Justin Johnson, young Dolph's alleged killer.
Another simple reason why Teezy and Big Newski were targeted is because they were still out on the street. The two shooters of young Dolph are behind prison walls, so obviously not as easy to attack. Justin Johnson, however, was punched in the face during his incarceration. What's more, the suspects connected to young Dolph's murder were all wearing special uniforms to indicate that they needed extra protection from other inmates.
You see the red shirt Govan is wearing? It is because he, along with others charged in this very high-profile case, are having to be kept away from the general population in lockup.
Trilla Mafia apparently did not have a fixed structure, but the leader of this gang, CEO Teezy, would have had to clear something like killing young Dolph.
It's true that there's no structure, but there is something called loose structure. For something that big to go down, you think Justin Johnson could just get paid to do it? No. Teezy had to know about it.
And clearly, Teezy was known as someone who was directly involved in young Dolph's death. A lot of people were delighted that this man had been killed. There were even celebrations of Dolph's death on Twitter users posting, "What goes around comes around," "Street justice," and "Case closed." It looks as if these people were simply young Dolph's fans. However, there are some artists on Paper Route Empire that were also in a celebratory mood. Kenny Muni posted LD, which could stand for Long Live Dolph. However, the bigger question was whether this was revenge or karma. CEO Teezy, as the leader of a criminal organization, would probably have had more than one enemy and people with more than one reason to take him out. What happened next supports the case that this was a response to young Dolph's death.
Also in the news, a man is now dead after a shooting happened on Castalia Heights this morning. Officers responded to the scene at 1 a.m. to the 800 block of Cloverdale Drive and found a 53-year-old man dead at the scene.
In response to CEO Teezy's death, another shooting occurred. This happened in Castalia Heights, a neighborhood associated with young Dolph. This was no coincidence. The people seeking revenge for young Dolph's death were a group named Double R. In young Dolph's song Get Paid, he raps, "Double R parked in my front yard." The gang Double R was tight with young Dolph, and by extension also tight with young Dolph's label Paper Route Empire, which promoted mainly artists from Memphis. According to King Act 47, this was a shooting that took place in Dolph's old neighborhood in Double R territory.
Late last night in Castalia Heights, young Dolph hood, they call it Dolph Land, where some be at, Double R. They saying two people slid over there, just start shooting up everything.
The shooting was so brutal that an innocent man living in the neighborhood was tragically killed.
A 58-year-old man lost his life, but he was not the intended target. And I'm also hearing that it may have been another shooting just not too long ago, Castalia Heights.
Another suspicious incident was the tragic death of Lotta Cash Desto, an up-and-coming rapper in Houston. She was apparently the daughter of Hernandez Govan. It's unclear who the perpetrator was, and there would need to be a lot more evidence to tie this to the feuds between Trilla Mafia and Double R. That being said, Govan posted in response to his daughter's death with, "I think I cursed you, Destiny, with my lifestyle. I apologize, baby." And apparently Double R and Trilla Mafia were once the same gang.
If y'all don't know the history of Double R and Trula, they all used to be one. Trula also used to be in Castalia Heights. They split up, which created Double R and Trula.
So let's look into the gang affiliations of the suspects behind young Dolph's murder, and more importantly, why the hit was called out on young Dolph. gang affiliations. None of the people involved with young Dolph's death have been convicted yet, but clearly in the case of Joshua Taylor, the people who went out to get him are not interested in the verdict from a court of law. But it is very hard to deny that these are all members of Trula Mafia. Cut to the chase. TV came across this rather interesting photo.
Boom! That is Trula Mafia in Miami the whole month of June. That is CEO Teasy. That's Straight Drop. That's Shondell Barnett.
Straight Drop is the rapping name of Justin Johnson, one of the alleged shooters. Here we see Johnson wearing a Paper Route Empire chain. Straight Drop was never signed to Young Dolph, but as an up-and-coming rapper in Memphis, there's no doubt that he knew who Dolph was. Some contend that he was not wearing this chain as a fan. Another image surfaced where Young Dolph appears to be performing at a club, and Johnson can be seen in the background. It's chilling to think how many times Young Dolph may have unknowingly crossed paths with his future killer. Cut to the Chase TV found some other images of Trula Mafia members wearing pre-chains.
Take a look at these pictures. You got Straight Drop rocking the Paper Route Empire chain on his belt buckle as a wallet holder. Y'all see it? You got JoJo Splat rocking the Paper Route Empire chain even after Young Dolph has been dead for 2 months.
Normally, if you see someone wearing a G-Unit or a Wu-Tang chain, you would assume that this is because they are a fan of their music. However, with the Puri chains, there is actually the opposite going on.
Every time Trula Mafia is wearing that Paper Route Empire chain, that's not a nod to Young Dolph. That's not an honorary pendant they're wearing it. They are wearing that Paper Route Empire chain to mock Young Dolph, to mock Paper Route Empire. Yeah, we got your chain, come get it back. We took your chain from you.
A key piece of evidence in Young Dolph's murder is a stolen white Mercedes. If you recall what I said earlier, this is a sophisticated criminal organization, and one of their biggest rackets is carjackings.
Focusing on a widespread and sometimes deadly trend, carjackings. Car thefts in Memphis have almost doubled this year, and according to MPD, the suspects involved are getting younger.
For auto thefts, we're up significantly, and the majority of our suspects are below the age of 18, almost 30%.
And these cars are used for getting things done.
Think about it, they're not reselling the cars, they're not painting the cars, they are stealing these cars to do other crimes, to do other shootings, to do other murders. Let's keep that in mind when you think about the Young Dolph case.
When Young Dolph was shot on that fateful day, the shooters were driving a stolen white Mercedes. This Mercedes was tied to a second shooting which happened in Covington, which is about 40 miles away from Memphis. This Mercedes was found in an area known as Orange Mound in Memphis, outside an abandoned house.
Images of this now infamous white Mercedes, Memphis police say, was the getaway car used in Young Dolph's murder at Makita's Cookies has been viewed by millions. The car was found outside this abandoned home on Bradley Street days after the killing in late November.
Then this car is connected to Justin Johnson.
It's the same home seen here in this music video featuring Young Dolph's accused killer, Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop.
And this neighborhood is connected to Hernandez Govan.
Court records show 43-year-old Hernandez Govan, who was just indicted in the rap star slaying, along with Johnson and Cornelius Smith, once lived just a few houses down.
And if Orange Mound rings a bell, that's because it was mentioned earlier on in this video. It's the same neighborhood where CEO Teasy was killed. So now that we have established that the suspects of Young Dolph's murder were Trilla Mafia, let's get into what their beef was with Young Dolph. And believe it or not, Trilla Mafia and Young Dolph at one stage were on good terms. In fact, Young Dolph worked with rapper J Money Trilla on a song together. J Money Trilla was tragically killed in 2016, as was his brother D Money. The alleged killer of D Money was a person named Uncle Danny, and Uncle Danny was signed to Paper Route Empire. The only piece of evidence to connect this is a rather strange Facebook exchange after Young Dolph's death between someone and the mother of J Money. The message from the other person said, J Money would have had these streets crying about Dolph, to which J Money's mother replies, he sure didn't cry about him or D Money. He signed D Money Killer. King Act 47 seems to be referring to this when he says,
Trilla used to be cool with Dolph until Young Dolph signed somebody that on the streets, and allegedly, I'm not saying who the dude name is, y'all do that for yourself, killed they homie.
For Young Dolph, this deal was strictly business. He was signing a promising artist that he was convinced would bring him in money. And besides, Young Dolph had already moved out of Memphis and was living in Atlanta, so street beef in Memphis was not his top priority. For Trilla Mafia, this was a betrayal. And for most gangs, betrayal results in retaliation.
Once Dolph did that, Trilla took it as ultimate disrespect. And you start seeing Trilla align themselves with Young Dolph Ops. Who was Young Dolph Ops? CMG.
And another important person in the equation is Key Glock. Key Glock was signed to Paper Route Empire and was seen as Young Dolph's protege. They even made a series of albums together called Dumb and Dumber. After Young Dolph's death, it came to light that Key Glock knew some of the people associated with the death of his mentor, Young Dolph. Dolph and Glock are also technically family, as they are cousins through marriage, but he seems to have also been friends with CEO Teasy. This is quite damning information, but there could be a much more innocent explanation. As I mentioned earlier, Trella Mafia and Double R were once the same gang until they split into two sets. When this happened, you basically had to pick sides and abandon some of your former friends depending on what side they were on. Key Glock, who was by now establishing himself as a rapper, was probably holding on to friendships that it was not wise to hold on to. Key Glock being involved in the murder does not make sense for two reasons. Firstly, this guy is his cousin, and why would kill a member of his extended family? Secondly, why would he kill the person who was promoting his career and bringing him in so much money? So the connections between him and the alleged suspects of Young Dolph's murder make no sense, both from an emotional and logical viewpoint. Nonetheless, he does have some explaining to do.
It's quite funny how everybody that used to be associated with you, everybody that used to run with you, everybody that used to be a part of your crew is now accused of killing your cousin, Young Dolph.
But for Cut to the Chase TV, the murder of Young Dolph, or at least part of why they could have killed Dolph, was to cut off the money supply of Uncle Danny or Key Glock. If you take out Dolph, you have essentially cut off the food supply.
They see Young Dolph buying his artist cars, cribs, chains. So you helping my enemy eat. We don't necessarily have a problem with you, but you is the food supply, you is the water supply, you is supplying my enemy, so we gotta take you out.
When Young Dolph's murder came to light, many people pointed the finger at one person and one person only. Young Dolph had a lengthy and violent feud with another Memphis rapper, so when he got killed, it was assumed that he might have something to do with it. I'm of course talking about Yo Gotti, so I'm going to present all of the information and let you decide whether there is any connection. Trella and CMG versus Pre. Young Dolph and Yo Gotti could have been the best of friends, but for a number of reasons, the two never saw eye to eye. The beef started when Young Dolph was coming up in Memphis, and Yo Gotti tried to get him signed to his label. A huge part of Young Dolph's story was that he was an independent artist, and he was determined to stand on his own 2 feet. Gotti, meanwhile, saw this as a sign of disrespect. This clearly caused consternation between the two, and Dolph tweeted, "Bra went from being my #1 fan and wanting to sign me to being my biggest hater." Dolph added fuel to the fire by calling his album King of Memphis, a title that Yo Gotti regularly referred to himself as. The implication was that Gotti's throne had been usurped by Dolph. However, Dolph downplayed this by saying that was not the king of Memphis's, but a king of Memphis. It's a small but significant distinction.
King of Memphis, not the king of Memphis. Like, all of my partners king. Everybody that hang with me, all my partners, like, everybody having some paper, everybody caked up.
Gotti did not publicly respond to Dolph, and most of the retaliation came from Gotti's affiliate, Black Youngstar. Youngstar posted a video of himself alongside others where he was carrying a gun and walking around Dolph's neighborhood looking for him. He can be heard saying, "Dolph, you a bitch, you a soft if you got a problem, say you got a problem, and you ain't even no king of Memphis." Dolph responded on Instagram with, "First thing first, everybody know it's Yo Gotti. That's sending your artist out to say the lame he been saying and doing. I guess you still mad cause I didn't never sign with your or is you still in your feelings cause you fell out with? Gucci Mane and you was mad at me cause I kept rocking with Gucci." Then there was not one, but 2 hits made on Young Dolph's life, both of which had links to Gotti and Black Youngstar. In February 2017, Dolph was in North Carolina and someone started shooting at the Jeep he was driving in. The vehicle was shot at roughly 100 times, but thanks to the vehicle's bulletproof glass, Dolph survived the incident. He even mocked his shooters by releasing a song named 100 Shots. The police found out that the van used to trap and shoot was rented by none other than Black Youngstar. Youngstar was initially charged, but these were later dropped, with Youngstar claiming that this vehicle was stolen. But it was a mighty fine coincidence that Black Youngstar happened to be in North Carolina at the same time as Dolph and had a car connected to the shooting. Another amazing coincidence happened later that year in September.
Breaking news, a shooting at a popular tourist spot in Hollywood. Tonight, a rapper is in critical condition.
Dolph survived this incident once again. And just like before, one of his enemies happened to be in the same city as him. The shooting happened outside Lowe's Hollywood Hotel, and one of the hotel's guests during this time was Yo Gotti. Gotti's friend Corey McClendon was charged with these shootings. And just like before, these charges were dropped once again. No guilty verdicts were made once again, but let's just say that Gotti and Black Youngstar have some very good lawyers. So when Dolph was shot for the 3rd time and did not survive this time, you could forgive people for jumping to the conclusion that Gotti and his affiliates were involved. But this time round, there was nothing that incriminated Gotti and Black Youngstar. What's speculated is that Young Dolph's label and the gang he was affiliated with joined forces, and Trella Mafia and the label they were affiliated with joined together. It was the classic case of my enemy's enemy is my friend.
two hoods that don't get along with each other versus two record labels that don't get along with each other. Basically what it is.
And here are some links being made between Trilla Mafia and Gotti's label CMG. Two images surfaced which has led many people to put two and two together. In one photo, we see Hernandez Govan in a picture with a guy named Big Juke, who is Gotti's brother. A picture of Govan and Gotti together would be a lot more damaging. But the fact that there is only 1 degree of separation between the two is quite interesting, to say the least. There are even allegations that Big Juke put the hit out and put a $40K bounty on Dolph's head. Grove Hero from Memphis posted a video on Instagram that alleges that Big Juke put a bounty on Dolph's head.
If a told you, hey man, look bro, my Juke put a $40,000 hit on you, bro. Like, man, come on, bro.
There is also an Instagram video of Big Juke with none other than CEO Teasy.
Nah, man, you doing prop money now. Is that prop money, man?
And this image has also gone viral. This is the music video for a song by Black Youngstar, and it appears that Shondell Barnett, one of the people considered an accessory to Young Dolph's murder, is there in the video. And remember before I mentioned the death of the rapper Big Nusky? Well, Nusky was signed to a label called Bread Gang, which is run by the rapper Moneybagg Yo, who is signed to CMG. There seems to be only 1 or 2 degrees of separation wherever you look. Even if Gotti is involved, it will be incredibly difficult to find his fingerprints on anything. Gotti is named after the famous mobster John Gotti, and both of them are in a similar situation. John Gotti was known as the Teflon Don. Teflon is used in non-stick cooking pans, and the police struggled to place any charges on him that would stick. Yo Gotti is in a similar situation. He is not the leader of Trilla Mafia or anything, but he is a rich and successful rapper and entrepreneur and needs to have a squeaky clean image.
Gotti is at a level to where the streets take care of itself. He the bag, and they make sure in all ways the bag is protected. He don't got a hand in nothing, ain't put a dollar in nothing, ain't caught a hit in nothing.
With Gotti, there is too much at stake for him to go to jail. That's why when Dolph was taking shots at Gotti, it was Black Youngstar jumping in and doing his dirty work. Gotti's hands are clean at all times. But as for his brother Big Juke, things are not as straightforward. In July 2023, he is believed to have been arrested. But as to why he was arrested, we still don't know. If Big Juke is arrested in connection with Young Dolph's murder, then it would be very difficult for Gotti and his affiliates to deny that they had nothing to do with this, or are completely innocent. Thank you so much for watching. Please click on some of the videos you see in front of you now.